I trusted that text more than I trusted my own instincts. That was the last mistake I ever made. My phone buzzed once on the kitchen counter. One message, no buildup, no warning. I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. I stared at the screen while the light above my Denver kitchen flickered, buzzing faintly like it was struggling to stay on. 32 years reduced to a sentence. No explanation, no argument, just exile, delivered clean and cold. My thumbs hovered, then I typed a single word. Okay. I didn't cry. I didn't call back. I set the phone down gently, as if any sudden movement might crack something fragile inside me. Then I opened my laptop and did the one thing they never imagined I would do. I stopped the money, every transfer, every automatic payment, every quiet safety net I'd been holding under them for years. 48 hours later, my mother called, voice shaking, panic leaking through every breath. I let it ring. Kitchens tell the truth about families. The one I grew up in back in Glendale always smelled like burnt coffee and tension that never quite dissipated. My father, Donald, liked control. Low lights, softer voices, emotions pressed flat. My stepmother, Kimberly, polished everything until it shined, while something sour simmered underneath. And Joshua, my older brother, moved through that house like it belonged to him by birthright. I learned early how to shrink, how to stay useful without being visible. Joshua was the proof Donald liked to show off, the success story, the one who could do no wrong. I was the buffer. If Joshua messed up, I fixed it. If a bill went unpaid, it somehow landed in my lap. If Donald's voice rose, it always angled toward me. When I left for college, I thought distance would loosen something. It didn't. It just made me easier to exploit. I became the daughter who wired money home, the reliable one, the quiet solution to problems no one wanted to admit out loud. 4 years ago, Donald cried. Real tears. I remember freezing, unsure how to respond, because I'd never seen that face crack. He said the house was days from foreclosure, said Joshua had disappointed him, though he never said how, said Kimberly was sick with worry. Then he looked at me and said I was his last hope, the only one he could truly count on. Those words wrapped around my throat. I agreed to help. Just temporarily, he said. First the mortgage, then utilities, then emergencies that somehow synced perfectly with my payday. I told myself it was temporary. That piece had a price. I'm an auditor. I balance numbers for a living. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could spot fraud in a stranger's books instantly, but I kept ignoring the red flags in my own family. Every holiday was theater, smiles stretched too tight, praise aimed like a spotlight at Joshua. Kimberly would gush about his latest job or car, then turn to me with that soft, dismissive smile. Ashley just likes working quietly, nothing flashy. The week before the text, something shifted. Donald grew distant, clipped. Joshua wouldn't meet my eyes. Kimberly flinched every time her phone buzzed. It felt like standing in a room where the walls had started to crack, just before collapse. Then Uncle Paul sent me a video. No context, no message, just a file. The thumbnail alone made my chest tighten. My family crowded around the Glendale dining table, the worn oak, the chipped corner Joshua carved into years ago. I hit play. The room was bright, almost harsh. Kimberly's chandelier washed their faces in white light. They looked relaxed, comfortable, the way people do when they think no one's watching. Donald's voice cut through first, low, confident, satisfied. She's not a daughter, he said. She's a walking ATM. The laughter came fast, easy, comfortable, the kind of laughter that fills a room when everyone knows they're safe from consequences. My body locked up. Kimberly leaned forward, shaking her head as if she were pretending to scold him, but her mouth was stretched wide, teeth showing. Donald, stop, she said between laughs. That girl works too hard for her own good. Let her feel useful. Useful. Joshua didn't even look up. He sounded bored, like this was an old joke he'd told too many times. Honestly, Dad, she's pathetic. You should hear how she talks at work, always justifying why she sends you money. It's embarrassing. The laughter swelled again, louder now, fuller. Someone snorted behind the camera. Someone slapped the table. The sound pressed against my ears until it felt physical, like fingers digging in. Donald lifted his beard toward the phone, eyes gleaming. To my personal ATM, he said. Long may she pay. Glasses clinked. Someone whistled. Cheers. I didn't notice my hand had gone numb until the phone slipped, and I had to grab it before it hit the floor. My stomach twisted, But the video kept going, dragging me through every second. It wasn't just what they said, it was how easily they said it, how relaxed they were, how certain. Certain that I would never hear this, certain that I would never leave. I hit pause. The apartment felt colder instantly, like someone had opened a window I couldn't see. For the first time in my life, there was no sting behind my eyes, no rush to explain, to fix, to forgive. Just a sharp, alert stillness. I replayed the video, this time watching their faces instead of listening to the words. The loose shoulders, the casual smiles, the total absence of hesitation. This wasn't a slip, it was infrastructure. I set the phone down and forced air into my lungs, slow and deliberate. Then I stepped onto the balcony. Denver's fall air cut across my skin, sharp enough to bite. The metal railing burned cold against my palms. Below me, city lights blinked like distant warnings, steady and indifferent. Everything lined up. Donald's sudden distance, Kimberly's guilt-laced comments, Joshua's perfectly timed emergencies. They weren't drowning, they weren't scrambling, they were coordinating, and worse, they believed they were owed. I went back inside and picked up the phone again. I needed to hear it, needed the reminder. Halfway through the video, the screen buzzed. A text from Donald. I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. My chest tightened, but not the way it used to. This wasn't punishment. It was preemptive. They thought I was about to confront them. They thought they were cutting me off before I could disrupt the system they'd built around my silence. They thought they were still in control. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I typed one word. Okay. Not a question, not an argument, a full stop. Standing alone in my apartment, with their laughter still echoing in my ears, something finally settled. I wasn't their daughter. I was a line item, a recurring deposit they felt entitled to. Betrayal doesn't always explode. Sometimes it leaves behind a silence so clean it feels surgical. That silence filled my apartment after I sent that text. Growing up, silence meant punishment, withdrawal, control. This silence felt different. This one belonged to me. I placed the phone down and opened my laptop. If Donald wanted everything handled through lawyers, I would give him exactly what he asked for: distance, precision, and no room for misinterpretation. The banking portal loaded, blue and white, spinning wheel humming softly. When the numbers appeared, my training took over. This wasn't personal anymore. It was procedural. Mortgage support, 4 years, 48 payments, everyone on time. And that was just step one. I paused with the cursor hovering over the transfer, my name stamped there like a quiet confession I'd been making for years. One click would erase it. A gray box slid onto the screen, polite and indifferent. Confirm cancellation? My lungs filled slowly. I nodded to no one. Yes. The line disappeared. I didn't rush. I moved methodically. Utilities next, the ones I'd been covering so long they felt invisible. Power, water, internet. Services I'd kept alive when Donald forgot, and Joshua meant to handle it. Each cancellation landed with a muted click, small sounds carrying outsized weight. Then came the extras. The monthly emergencies Kimberly always phrased like confessions. The sudden gaps Joshua insisted only I could fill. Transfers dressed up as favors. I shut them all down, one after another, without ceremony. No speeches, no second guesses. Only after everything was severed did I open a new document. I named it payments. No adjectives, no anger, just dates, amounts, notes stripped down to facts. The list grew faster than I expected. 4 years of support laid out cleanly, brutally. Looking at it felt like finally seeing the damage on an X-ray, proof I hadn't imagined the pain. My phone vibrated on the counter. Joshua, don't start something stupid. I didn't open it. Another vibration. Kimberly, the mortgage is due tomorrow. Please don't complicate this. Erase, erase. They were waiting for theatrics, tears, a reversal, something familiar. What they didn't understand was that nothing in me felt chaotic anymore. Whatever snapped had done so cleanly. I woke before sunrise the next morning. The apartment felt brighter, quieter, like a place that belonged to me instead of a waiting room. I made coffee, tied my hair back, and sat down with my laptop. Muscle memory pulled me to the mortgage portal. A thin red banner blinked at the top. Payment unsuccessful. I stared at it, waiting for my pulse to spike. It didn't. What settled in instead was calm, heavy, grounding. The first visible fracture in something that had depended entirely on my compliance. By midday, the emails started. Services failing, cards rejected. Accounts paused. Each notification loosened something I'd been carrying in my body without realizing it. Late afternoon, Joshua called. His name glowed on the screen, demanding attention by sheer habit. I let it ring. 10 seconds later, voicemail. This isn't funny. Deleted. That evening, I went back out to the balcony. Denver stretched below me, all quiet motion and distant noise. Wind lifted my hair, cool and steady. For the first time since childhood, I wasn't bracing myself for someone else's reaction. I wasn't tearing anything down. I was stepping out. The realization settled slowly but firmly. Donald believed cutting me off would destabilize me. He never noticed who had been keeping the structure upright, and I was finished doing that. 2 days later, my phone nearly rattled off the counter. Kimberly's name flashed again and again. I didn't hurry. I poured coffee, watched the steam curl upward, then answered and set the phone down. Her voice burst through the speaker. What did you do? The payment bounced? The bank called. It's due today. You need to fix this. Now. There was no question in her tone, just expectation. I took a sip. Donald asked that everything go through his lawyer, I said calmly. I'm respecting that. Silence, then a sharp breath. What lawyer? Stop this. You're being difficult. I ended the call. The phone rang again almost immediately. Then again. The messages didn't stop. They multiplied. Each one arrived sharper than the last, stitched together from guilt, accusation, and raw panic. Joshua charged in first, fists swinging through the screen. Have you lost your mind? You're destroying Dad's life. Fix the payment today. Another followed before I could even set the phone down. You think this little stunt gives you power? It just proves how pathetic you are. There was a time those words would have hollowed me out. This time, they landed flat, weightless, like echoes from a room I'd already left. By midday, the tone shifted. Calls turned ugly. Kimberly started talking about lawsuits, her voice tight and rehearsed. Joshua promised I'd be erased from the family permanently, like exile was supposed to scare me. And Donald? Nothing. No rage, no demand. Just silence. Heavy. Calculated. Louder than all of them combined. That silence broke in the afternoon, but not the way I expected. My lawyer called. She sounded amused, almost cheerful. She told me she'd received an email from someone claiming to represent Donald. Formal language, stiff threats, accusations of financial harassment, demands that all payments be reinstated immediately. She paused, then laughed. This isn't a claim, she said. It's intimidation. Empty. Good, I replied, breath finally easing out of me. Because I need your help with something else. I told her everything. The years of transfers, the video Uncle Paul never meant to send, the way my family spoke about me when they thought I was invisible. Then I said the part I'd never let myself articulate. There were always inconsistencies in his community fund reports, I said. I think he's been moving money, maybe more than that. The humor vanished from her voice. Then we dig. The next week blurred into quiet obsession. Every spare minute went into numbers and records. I pulled my old notes, cross-checked transactions against public filings. Dates didn't align, amounts drifted. Descriptions stayed deliberately vague. My lawyer brought in people she trusted. Each comparison revealed another fracture. Donald wasn't careless. He was methodical. Money siphoned out in steady intervals. Not pennies, not accidents. A pattern designed to hide in plain sight. Then, close to 11 one night, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go. Something stopped me. A voice whispered my name like it was afraid of being overheard. Ashley, it's Donna. My cousin sounded small, folded in on herself. I saw the video, she said, and I need to tell you what happened to me. The words came out uneven, broken by pauses. She told me how Donald cornered her when she was 17, how she screamed, how Michelle brushed it off as confusion, how silence was imposed and enforced. I didn't know who else to tell, she whispered. I closed my eyes, pressure blooming behind them. The picture was widening, sharpening. This wasn't just manipulation. It wasn't just money. 2 days later, another call landed. This one from Sharon, my mother's closest friend. Her voice trembled as she spoke. She suffered more than you know, she said. She hid it to protect you. He controlled everything. Her money, her choices, her world. He drained her slowly. Something old cracked inside me. This wasn't a messy family. It was a machine, built around one man's control. And I wasn't the next piece to be consumed. I was the fault line. The confrontation came on a quiet Thursday. The Denver sun sank low, stretching gold shadows across my apartment floor. 3 heavy knocks hit my door. Slow, deliberate. I didn't need to look through the peephole. When I opened it, Donald stood there, smaller than I remembered. His face hollowed out, skin gray, eyes darting. The confidence he used like armor was gone. "Ashley," he rasped, "please, they're talking about legal action." And for the first time in my life, he wasn't holding anything at all. His voice unraveled in front of me. "They're saying things," he blurted, words tripping over each other. "People are talking, accusing. This is getting out of control." His eyes searched my face, desperate, calculating. "You can stop it. You know you can. You're the numbers person. Just explain it away. Call it a mistake." The last word broke when it left his mouth. "I'm your father," he added, softer now, almost pleading. I didn't respond. I let the quiet stretch until it became unbearable, until he shifted his stance, until his breathing grew uneven. Then I reached into the folder tucked under my arm and placed a single page into his hands. He stared at it. At first, nothing registered. Then his eyes began to move faster. Lines, columns, figures. His fingers tightened, knuckles whitening. When he reached the section marked with repeated withdrawals and flagged inconsistencies, his breath caught hard in his throat. "What is this?" he whispered. "A snapshot," I said, "of what's already been noticed, and what won't stay hidden much longer." He looked up at me, the color draining from his face. "You did this." It wasn't curiosity. It was accusation, an instinctive reach for someone else to blame. "No," I said, my voice flat. "You did." His composure fractured completely. "Ashley, please, I need you. After everything, you owe me." I stepped back, just enough for the hallway light to draw a clear boundary between us. "I don't owe you anything," I said, "and you made that very clear when you cut me off." His mouth trembled. "I didn't mean it." "That's exactly the issue," I replied. "You never do." I closed the door before he could scramble for another excuse. The lock slid into place with a muted click. Through the wood, I heard a sharp, uneven breath. One short sound that carried the weight of everything finally collapsing. Not because I attacked him, but because I stopped supporting him. The consequences accelerated. Within days, the board overseeing the community fund initiated a formal review. Documentation changed hands, emails multiplied. Meetings were scheduled behind closed doors, then opened wider. Questions stopped being careful. Donald's name shifted from respected to risky. Joshua tried to intervene online, posting furious defenses that only fueled scrutiny. Comments piled up, screenshots spread. His outrage became part of the evidence. By month's end, the Glendale house, the symbol of authority, the anchor I'd been financing alone, was under foreclosure review. The structure I'd propped up for years couldn't survive without me. It didn't decline slowly. It gave way all at once. Meanwhile, my life began to recalibrate. After a demanding audit, my supervisor asked me into her office. She studied the reports, then looked at me differently. She spoke about resilience, about judgment, about leadership. When I left, my role finally matched my responsibilities. One night, I stood on my balcony, city lights stretching endlessly below. The air was still. There was no tension in my shoulders, no invisible meter running. Peace didn't cost me anything anymore. I learned the difference too late, but not too late to matter. Family isn't proven by shared blood. It's revealed by how people treat you when you stop being useful. Leaving wasn't betrayal. It was self-preservation. And boundaries weren't punishment. They were the first real freedom I'd ever had.